Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Essa Zanambasi, trained as a medical doctor, very, very passionate about health and wellness. And my brand, as a result of that, is called Simply Healthier, because I really, truly believe that being healthy should not be complicated. So today we are having a revision on allergy and asthma. And we just want to bring some understanding so we can apply Neolife. And hopefully you will see the rationale of the products that we do have in Neolife. I'm also focusing quite a bit on children's nutrition because allergy and asthma tends to manifest in children. So for the guests, I hope you will take a good look at this. If you are new here, you're most welcome. And as we approach the end of November and the end of 2022, I'm hoping that this will encourage you to make different choices for the health of your family and for the greater community and ultimately for the nation at large. That is our aim. So today, as we discuss allergy and asthma, I just want to put it out there that what we do in Neolife is about building people. It is, yes, an opportunity where you can build a business, but primarily we have to focus on building people, and then people build the business. So with that in mind, you're all welcome. Allergy, let's start with allergy. What it is it's an inappropriate response by the body's immune system to a substance that is normally not harmful. And an allergy is therefore when the immune system wrongly identifies normally non-toxic substances as foreign invaders. And a lot of things happen, the white blood cells overreact. And yes, that is what we call an allergic response, which ultimately becomes a disease. And when that happens, that is unfortunate. So how it happens, the manifestations may be any of those, nasal congestion, wheezing, itchiness, bloatedness, headache, fatigue, and in children, they might just be constantly irritable and you don't understand why. It's important to realize that allergy is common, okay? And I think that's why whoever asked for this particular topic to be revisited knows and has seen that allergy is common, because somewhere in the world, someone will be allergic to something, and there are the common allergens, things like pollen, dust, metals, cosmetics, and the constituents of those cosmetics, some drugs even, food additives, those are big, and obviously chemicals that are found in various detergents and everyday products that are in common usage. So let's move on. There are some foods that can provoke allergic reactions. And so it's important to be aware of that foods might be a culprit. Some people are allergic to dairy products, especially modern times when there's quite a lot of homogenization and pasteurization of those products. They are changed in nature. Some people might be allergic to something as innocuous as chocolate even. And we like to give our kids these things without realizing that it can be a cause of a problem. Various fish can cause allergy. Wheat is becoming an increasingly allergy-causing food as time goes on. Obviously, the nature of wheat has changed or is changing. So there are many And just to point out the difference between allergy and intolerance, allergy, if we use food as an example, the immune system generates an antibody response to the food that has been eaten. Whereas intolerance, it's the inability to digest and to process the food correctly. Usually it is as a result of lack of enzymes, the digestive enzymes and the ability of the body to handle that food because of lack of enzymes. Well, the difference is small, but yeah, it's significant. Then I thought, yeah, let's talk specifically about molds, which are everywhere. And we need to know that because they are everywhere, they thrive virtually everywhere. Our homes are full of them, usually where there is a lot of damp and dark places. And they're useful because they do break down, they help with the formation of compost to fertilize the soil. They're useful because medications may be made from molds, such as penicillin is made from molds. They ferment foods, and we have things like yeast and in cheese making, brewing, and baking. However, many people are allergic to mold, and that is something that can be very chronic and very pervasive. And if we are not careful, it could be a reason for a lot of ill health in very many people. So yeah, let's just carry on with that one. I just thought I would remind everybody, and particularly for the new people, the guests on the call, that our digestive system is the interface between the outside world and inside our bloodstreams, literally. That is the dividing line between outside and inside of us, the digestive system. So we have to endeavor to keep it as healthy as possible. However, modern living is such that we tend to throw into our digestive systems a lot of things like antibiotics, the diet full of preservatives, colorants, old food, all those things, and stress can cause a lot of breakdown of the gut to create a leaky gut, and that can be the beginning of severe allergy, and it becomes perpetuated if nobody knows that that is what is happening, because you know we have normalized so many things in our lives that it might be one of the reasons that we need to stop, think, and see how to make changes. Okay, so more on this, food intolerance, more on allergy and intolerance. Food intolerance can lead to allergy if particles of undigested food, and that's why I showed you the previous picture, manage to enter into the bloodstream and cause that reaction. So sometimes it is hard to identify if there is a delayed reaction, which is very often the case. And some manifestations of delayed reactions to be aware of, especially in children, since today we want to focus a little bit more on our children, like irritability. Some children just are constantly irritated and irritable. And you wonder, hey, what's wrong with this one? And then you might try and feed them more of the very food that is causing that irritation in the first place, that allergic response. And then irritating coughs and persistent, unexplained fatigue in maybe the older children, whom you wonder, hey, why is this child always sleeping, or is lazy, or is demotivated? They could have an allergy in the environment, an allergen in the environment. And then for the sharp ones, a rise in temperature for a short time after exposure, or a rise in the pulse rate. I have tested this on myself. Each time I eat something with wheat gluten, I check my pulse, and sure enough, my pulse rate is fast. So those were some of the signs for myself that decided me that perhaps I should go easy on some of these foods. But yeah, we need to become vigilant for the sake of our children and ourselves as adults. So just remember, allergies may run in families. They're worse in babies that are not breastfed, and that is a common occurrence, that many babies are no longer being breastfed adequately. And they may be triggered by emotions. Allergies may be, allergic responses may be triggered by emotions. But whatever it is, it's actually a sign that the immune system is not functioning well. And you know, in this family, we like to focus on the immune system a lot. And so let us just carry on. Now let's look at asthma. Asthma is characterized by a trigger leading to spasm of the airways. It's actually a chest, a respiratory challenge. And then there's swelling, and then there's formation of mucus. And then the mucus causes further irritation and closing of the airways. And then all that just becomes a vicious cycle. So there's a picture just to show that a normal airway should be nice and patent and allow air in freely. But once it is inflamed, because of that trigger and that response, there's spasm, and it looks something like that, and then mucus will collect. So yeah, that is quite a distressing situation. Asthma is the manifestation of chronic inflammation. Now, I want you to mark those words, because over and over again, we have discussed the effects of chronic inflammation. So where there is chronic inflammation, asthma is one of the manifestations, and it leads to hypersensitivity of the airways to certain triggers. Okay, so what I would like us to think about when you go home, think on this one. Asthma in an acute attack, as spasms in an acute attack, are actually not the disease. The disease is chronic inflammation and hypersensitivity to the triggers that set off the cascade. But yes, spasms will occur, and we tend to focus in our treatments on those spasms when we should be trying to unearth the root cause. So, sorry. Okay. So let's just carry on. Yeah. And a lot of people are susceptible to things. We've talked about mold, we've talked about the possibility of drugs that might cause it, but let's focus on other things that we use day to day, chemicals around the home, or if there is somebody who's a smoker, and then of course exhaust fumes, dust mite, and feathers and all that from animals can be possible triggers. And I just want to say that if there is adrenal disorders, now we are talking about hormones, okay? That could trigger an asthma attack. Something like low blood sugar may trigger an attack. And in short, if there is any stressor, anything to lead to stress, that is the body failing to cope with that stress, and that may point to adrenal challenges, because that's where the adrenal hormones create the stress hormones, rather the adrenal glands create the stress hormones. And if they're not coping, then one should ask oneself, why are they not coping? What is the root cause of that one? So in our family called Neolife, we like to get down to the root causes. Okay, just bear in mind that asthma can be difficult to diagnose, and it might be mistaken for other things like a respiratory infection called bronchitis, might be due to heart failure, or it might be due to chronic lung disease, such as emphysema. And a lot of children get hospitalized, usually under 16, or adults over 65. And that is quite an observation, but children who are very young are more often affected by it, and they're said to outgrow it by about the age of 7 or 9 or 10. But by then, quite a bit of damage has been caused. So it is important to make the diagnosis quickly and to consider root causes. Now, that's what I'm going to delve more and more into, because nutrition deficiencies are a big, big driver of asthma. Vitamin B complex deficiency, vitamin C deficiency, minerals that are deficient, and all these nutrients, they are quite significantly deficient in modern diet. Yeah. Also, asthmatic people or children with asthma tend to have lower than normal stomach acid. And the unfortunate thing is, as they grow, they might be convinced that they have too much acid and therefore are given antacids, which will just compound an already fragile situation. Also, amino acid deficiencies are common because it is kind of difficult, it's quite difficult to provide all the required amino acids in our modern day diets unless we are intentional. And for the guests, that's what we want to show you, how to be intentional about providing what the body requires. Anyway, methionine and cysteine are very, very important for repair of lung tissue, and they also help to reduce inflammation. If they are deficient, one is more likely to be affected by asthma. So here are some other points to note about how we generally try to medicate the symptoms without necessarily finding the root cause and addressing the root cause. Drugs that are used to control the symptoms of asthma may cause jitteriness and mood swings and inability to sleep. Some medication that are used to manage hypertension can also cause spasm or bronchial muscle constriction. That would be more important in the older people over 65 or even over 45. And then also, these days, you know, we send our children off to school and other functions with cakes and sweets and preserved foods. Be very careful of all those, because those could be triggers. So yeah, as I said, I wanted to be quick. Applying Neolife to make a real difference. That's what we are all about. So we want to end the trend of chronic disease, and what Neolife offers to impact children's lives and make the world a healthier and happier place. We have stunning children's nutritionals, really, really amazing that a company would have been so forward thinking to create good nutrition for children. But first of all, let's look at signs and symptoms in children who might manifest allergy or asthma. The first thing that one wants to look at is that they might be stunted in growth. They may be dull and listless. They're always sick because the immune system is in overdrive. It is always being activated and eventually becomes weakened. They have poor appetite, and this is affected by the fact that their senses of taste and smell might be impaired, made worse if there's too much medication. I see it all the time in patients. Well, when I do see patients, which isn't very often these days, yeah, that they are apparently having a poor appetite when in fact they can't smell anything and they can't taste anything. So there's no pleasure in eating, and that just sets up a vicious cycle. And the mood changes that we mentioned already. So okay. Right, let's just carry on. So ideally, we should be giving everyone, children and adults, fresh foods, ideally. Huh? It's not easy. It's not easy. In our modern rushed lifestyles, it's not easy. So I just put up this picture because it's so beautiful to remember that, yes, that's the ideal. And if we can do as much of the fresh foods as possible, we'll be doing very well. But now we have this situation where, because of malnutrition, children and adults actually become obese, and it is a sign of chronic inflammation. And remember, I mentioned that some of these manifestations are actually because of chronic inflammation. So if you can just connect those ones, the manifestations and the chronic inflammation, it goes a long way to understanding how to help the child and the adults. So yes, childhood obesity is becoming a challenge, and the more obese one is, the harder they have to breathe properly as well. And it is also sometimes associated, very often, with an underactive thyroid gland. And once the hormones are destabilized, that can be a challenge. So yes, if there are guests on the call, you're asking yourself, who do we trust? We have, to our credit in this family called the Neolife family, a history of scientific excellence, thanks to the Scientific Advisory Board that was founded by Dr. Arthur First, of whom we're very, very grateful. And now, one of the things that Neolife emphasizes, and this is really for the guests, that we need to have a good wellness triangle with physical activity at its base and making sure that we don't do all those wrong sugars and fats. There are some very good fats that you will see just now. And of course, we have to have enough whole grain oils and the fruits and vegetables. But unfortunately, a typical lifestyle pyramid or triangle looks something like that, where we are hardly doing any exercise. And as a result, our health suffers, and we are eating way too much of the wrong fats and sugars. So the net result is that we quickly slip from energetic, where we are supposed to be, through to tired and sick, and then we depend on chronic medications, which is not ideal, okay? We lose out on so much life, and for too many years live in those tired and sick zones. Yet there's something better. Our cells have to be healthy if we supply the right oils that build the cells. Unfortunately, Food processing has ensured that we do not get those oils. And even if we try to get them just by eating a lot of the whole grains, if we can find them, the calories, in other words, too much energy would be converted into fat and we would become obese. So Neolife, all those years ago, decided to give us a stunning product called TreaNN that is foundational. And now I just want to emphasize it specifically in the situation that we're talking about called asthma and allergies, or allergies and asthma, why it is so important. And perhaps now this is the big dot connecting exercise. If you have TreaNN on board, the important thing is that you would be replenishing your cells. You are having cellular nutrition. So for those who are wondering what is so special about cellular nutrition, well, it is crucial to ensure uptake of nutrients by the cell membranes. We are made out of trillions and trillions of cells, 73 to maybe between 70 and 100 trillion cells, I like to say. And each one has a membrane, each one is a living unit. If there is nutrient availability, but there is no uptake by that cell of those nutrients, and the cell as a result has no ability to utilize the nutrients, then nutrition has not happened. Nutrition does not happen. So a lot of people will tell us that, but I eat well, you know, I eat this and I eat that. I hear that story every day of my life. And I'm sure all of you who have heard that story are saying, yeah, but you still need at least TreaNN, okay? That is the reason, because if the nutrients are there, but cannot be uptaken by the cell, then nutrition has not happened. It just has not happened. So if there is no uptake within the right time, okay, usually you need that once you supply those nutrients, for them to be taken as soon as possible, okay? As soon as they are made available to the cells, they have to be taken up and utilized inside the cell. But if that does not happen, let's say within 72 or so hours, those nutrients will literally degrade or rot. I use the word rot, and they will give off potentially damaging gases and other products. It is those ones at a cellular level and throughout the body, throughout all our trillions of cells, that can potentially become allergy causing and create ill health. So after that, the symptoms manifest, and society has made it so that it is a good reason to reach out for medication. You know, you feel something, you go to the doctor and you get it fixed. That's why you've heard me say, please stop outsourcing your health things. Stop outsourcing your health. Please get some understanding so that you will, with the understanding, be able to say, okay, this is what is happening. How do I take a few steps back to correct the cause or the foundation or the root cause of whatever it is that is happening? But anyway, if that carries on long enough, after repeated use, dependence occurs, because, you know, after a while, each time there is a pain, you take a painkiller. Each time there is a symptom, you try and stop that symptom instead of listening with your heart, mind, and ears and every sense in you why it is happening, okay? Without addressing the root cause, dependence on medication will happen. And unfortunately, that will establish a disease state. So yeah, why it is crucial to ensure uptake of nutrients by cell membranes is precisely because you don't want to develop situations later on. And I've talked about the cell membrane and the fact that Neolife has, ever since it began, focused on cellular nutrition. So I hope that has made the point. So now let us discuss some of the nutrients and the nutrition supplements available for children so that we finish quickly and have time to chat. So that is what I call the core nutrition for the little ones. Okay, it's available. It is equivalent and maybe more than what we have as the core nutrition for adults. And I'll explain why as I go to the individual products. We've spent a lot of time discussing core nutrition. I think for the little ones, we need to invest in their health. As Pro Vitality, once the child can swallow it, is good for them as well. It isn't just an adult thing. And that's because we are bewildered in modern society. What do we feed our children? Many children are allergic these days. So we might need to think that, yes, perhaps the allergy, as I pointed out earlier, is because they are not making the enzymes. Neolife gives us in the core nutrition all the 22 amino acids, and that enables the body, once it gets all of them in one meal, to create the enzymes required. Isn't that amazing? And so we have Liquivite for the little ones in the markets that it is, which has threonine grain concentrates. I've mentioned threonine and its importance. So even from the very little, the threonine grain concentrates, which are an exclusive blend of whole grain lipid and sterol extracts from wheat, rice, and soy, are given to them so that their cell membranes can uptake nutrients right from the beginning. It is very, very important. Vita Square similarly has those threonine grain concentrates. This container is very well priced and it is enough for 2 children for a month. NutriShake gives all the 22 amino acids. When it comes back, yes, it has been out of stock temporarily, but they can also use Neolife Shake. There's nothing wrong with giving them Neolife Shake as long as they're getting all the 22 amino acids. VitaGuard, it's a complete antioxidant complex for children from fruits and vegetables. What makes it unique as part of the children's core nutrition is that this one also has a good complex of a complement of minerals, and it also has flavonoids, unlike our core nutrition for adults, which doesn't have the flavonoid complex. But yeah, you can get that for the children, they need it. And also vitamin C, very, very important. And I love this particular product, so I've remained a child because I use it a lot. And then omega-3, we have the mini for the children. So you see, we have a comprehensive children's range. Vitamin A and D, very, very important. Some people might say, but I'm on a budget, I cannot afford everything. This one is well priced and it will give pure fish liver oil, and it is very good for providing vitamin A, which is excellent and important against allergy and asthma, and of course vitamin D as well. So we have choice, but we also have good reason to use our product. The lipotropic adjunct, I've put it here for the children that can swallow and the older children, because lipotropic adjunct contains choline and inositol, which are essential for the production of lipoproteins, which keep lipids emulsified in the bloodstream, and also would help with those mucus plugs that can happen in asthma. It will help to get the body to mobilize them and get rid of them. So it contains vitamin B, and that is important because B6 is a big deficiency in asthma and allergies. Contains betaine hydrochloride, which will ensure that the body's hydrochloric acid in the stomach is made adequately. Remember, low stomach acid is one of the reasons we develop asthma, and I'm sure we develop allergies as well. Okay, and finally, in a detox pack, we have stunning products that can be used individually or together, but it is important to detox regularly. And then I need never forget to mention the cleaning products. Look, if your home environment is full of residues and films from toxic chemicals, and the cleaning is not done adequately, and there's a lot of molds that can be taken care of by some of these products that we have, then allergy and asthma will happen. So we have a cleaning range, which is very low residue at all, no residue, rinses easily, totally versatile, totally non-toxic, and it is 100% biodegradable. So ladies and gentlemen who are new here, this is where everybody should begin. Remove whatever is potentially causing irritation, and you will see a big difference. And of course, we have a stunning laundry compound, which many people have now discovered, and I'm so, so glad that it is working well. So yes, we have a huge opportunity. Let us discover all the possibilities. They're endless. You can sustain yourself by having a healthy family and earning money as you go about ensuring the health of your family. And all you need to do is make sure that you become 100% product user from your own business. And that you will hear about when you visit us again for a business presentation. So thank you. If there's anything that you would like to discuss, you are welcome. You can put your hand up if you would like to say anything. If not, we shall stop the recording. Okay, Big Dreamer, can you unmute?
Yes, I've unmuted.
Okay, cool.
Evening.
Good evening. Those who are not speaking, please remain muted. That's a bit of a challenge, isn't it? If you're not saying anything, remain muted, please. I beg you. Okay.
I want to know something. For these children who are allergic, eventually they start getting things like which are like tonsils, tonsillitis. Okay, the tonsils swell, and when they swell, you find that the breathing is loud, especially at night. A lot of noise. And that one disturbs parents. Hey, my child is not breathing. My child cannot breathe. So at that moment, do we, let's say maybe we can start on the nutrition and then we become patient, or what do you advise at that moment?
I think that's what I would advise. You see, in near life, we're taught one thing, and that is, for me, it has been the biggest lesson, and it actually aligns with what I prefer to see. All right, we are taught not to be reactive. like the rest of the world. The rest of the world is reactive. We need to be proactive. And that's why for all the people on the call who are looking at this for the first time, that's why we talk about cleaning products. That's why we talk about skincare. That's why we talk about nourishing, not to treat a condition, because that is being super reactive. If you wait for a challenge to happen and then you say, oh my goodness, and then you throw your hands up in the air and then you start complaining that it is costing too much. Of course it will cost too much. But if you use your discretion and you say, this is like an insurance policy, you're going to invest in the health of yourself and your children. And you're going to pay a little bit at a time. And as you do that, you're also going to make sure that your environment is clean. Yes, it's a big industry. People love reaction, love it. Okay, but what we are saying is that let us stand apart. Let us actually be different from the usual of, I will wait until something happens and then I'll run off to the doctor and I'll pay all the money in my bank account without even batting an eyelid. I think that's really lack of wisdom, don't you? I don't know. I call it lack of wisdom. So we are calling for wisdom here. And so, yes, tonsillitis, the tonsils are the gate to the rest of the respiratory tract. They actually are the gatekeepers. Whenever I hear that my child's tonsils are swollen and the adenoids, and now we're going to remove them, I want to fight. I really feel very, very upset, because the minute you remove the gatekeepers, you have opened the way to bigger infections. And here's the body's immune system working super hard to protect the child, okay? But then they take out the very things that are placed there by our creator to protect the rest of the lower tract, okay? So with those parents, just advise them, yes, be patient. Let us nourish this child. Let us strengthen the immune system and keep consistently doing that and clean up your environment. And if after 3 months, just say 90 days, 3 months, there is no change, then okay, feel free to go and have whatever needs to be cut out, removed. But I can tell you that if they listen to you and do as you say and do as I have shown, there will be a difference. There will be a difference. Okay. That always gets me going. Somebody else had their hand up. Who else had their hand up? No? Okay, Mr. Sejemba.
It was very informative and fruitful. Now for me, I'm addressing young mothers vis-a-vis the using napkins, and of late, it's only synthetics which are common in the market as compared to the cotton or any other natural fiber which they are supposed to use. What do you advise, especially regarding the young ones who are protected so that they can be moved around? The materials they use for carrying around babies, especially working mothers. Don't you think they affect their quality of life as they go by?
Yeah, it will ultimately, but also the best you can do is advise them that maybe they should consider going back to the basics as we knew them, of using cotton. Difficult to find, I know. As I say, we are living in the real world these days. Then you could also advise them, as soon as they can, wean the child off those synthetic napkins. They should. There are ways to enhance the body's immune system so that the reactions are not so severe, because we've agreed that if the immunity is battling and the adrenal glands are battling from lack of the right amino acids and the right essential fatty acids and the sterols that are found in tree NN, then there will be a challenge. So it's a balancing act, and I really do appreciate that it is not always easy, but then life is not easy, is it? We can only do our best to educate, and that's what we are trying to do here. Okay, if there's nothing else, we can have an early night. Okay, big dreamer again.
Sorry again to come back, but it seems the things are really practical, especially even now during the cold. The allergies are here and there. And then there are other people who start on products, even the new life shake itself, and then they say, when I start, I cough. Then you say, maybe first stop and we see. Definitely. And there, I think it really needs patience, and then we start looking around until we come back even to the cleaning products, now that even that we have to remove all those allergens all around from everywhere. But otherwise, actually, I've also seen it that they even start on our nutritionals, and they feel they get the allergies, which would beat someone. But I think we have to really look around all the corners and be patient. I think it calls for patience. Yeah. That's my comment.
It calls for patience, but it also calls for being logical about what you advise. Remember, I keep on saying, if you don't remove the cause and you try to medicate it away and throw supplements at it, the cause is still there. Yeah. So we need to explain until we are understood what the logic behind our opportunity is. But having said that, there was a time I described that reaction called the Herxheimer reaction. Do you remember that? Where if there is a challenge in the body and you start addressing that challenge by giving the right form of treatment, if I may call it that, the right nutrients and everything, there is usually initially an exacerbation, whatever there is happening will become worse before it becomes better. And yes, you can hold back a little bit. You might reduce the amounts. Let's say they're taking a full cup of NutriShake with 2 scoops. You can say use 1 until your body assimilates it and the immune system is building up. We see it all the time. I used to see it a lot when first starting patients on a certain form of medication. They could actually become very sick, okay? And that is because, yes, you are addressing the problem, and it's almost as if you've opened up a can of worms, literally. But if you persist and remain consistent, eventually it subsides as the immune system begins to take over to help. It happens when the immune system is particularly low. Okay, Mr. Samson Mwaka.
Yes, I'm glad to hear from you again. This is Samson again. Now I have a child that is having seizures. I think they're called seizures. What happens? He gets these migraines. It comes for a minute or two, then it falls to dizziness, then it just blacks out. It happened yesterday, and then after a few minutes or so, he came back, but he had somehow lost his memory, but it came back slowly, and he could recognize the names and everything. So I was asking whether there's anything that we can do to either lessen or even still try to treat that condition, as we seek more advice.
Okay.
Thank you.
But the child is already on medical treatment, right?
No.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. We are still carrying out tests. The first tests were negative, But again, the seizures came back, so we are trying to redo this again. Actually, that's where we went. That's where we were today. So we are waiting for results. We're going back tomorrow.
Okay, so find out what is actually triggering that as you also apply your minds to the possible causes. One thing that causes a lot of irritability of the neurons in the mind, right? If, for example, there are toxins that we call excitotoxins that can be found in food preservatives. Some children are particularly sensitive to food colorants. Some might be on inhaling something, and it could be a manifestation of an extreme manifestation of an allergic response. There might be shortage of omega-3 that stabilizes the neurons. There might be shortage of magnesium, calcium, all those. It might be worm infestation. Yeah, because some worms are naughty. They migrate into the brain and they can cause all sorts of things, especially people who live in areas that enjoy eating pork. So pork is not a very good form of food because of that problem of worm infestations that migrate to the brain and can cause seizures. So find out, ask them to really turn your child inside out, but on your side, start giving him magnesium and calcium. I don't know how old he is, but for example, TNN, rather the children's nutrition has all those things in there. And then
He's 11.
He's 11, so he's old enough to even have a good detox on your side. There's nothing to stop you. You do not need a doctor's prescription to give nutrition supplements, particularly if you're in the business and can have access to them. So consider investing in your child, and yeah, we'll wait and see what the hospital says, and you also become proactive. Remember, I said, rather than us in this family being reactive all the time, we want to become really proactive. So that's all I can suggest. Okay, I think our time is up. If there is nothing else, thank you very much for being here. We shall have more discussions as time goes on.